see some of the creativity that we have here. So we have a sign in Spanish that says, niños y niñas necesitan amor, no encierro en jaulas. Girls and boys, they need love, not to be caged. Children need love, not cages. Les enfants ont besoin d'amour et non d'être incarcérés. Un aplauso, a big applause to this girl who came here and talked also on behalf of the children. So we have another one there. Put war criminals in cages instead. Who agrees on that? Let's put war criminals in cages instead, not the children. That's good signs. So we have more signs. We have pictures of little kids in there. And I know there's the pictures. Yes, and here are. And I think this is the most important part, where we don't get lost in numbers, where we don't get lost on what people say, and we just don't put a face to a name, to a tragedy, to a family, to a child, to a situation. And thank you for bringing the pictures of 7 of the children that have died in incarceration. So we do have the names of all of them, and we're going to speak little by little of that little angel that that died because of xenophobic, racist policies of Trump. So yes, we're going to talk to them. We're going to talk to those little angels, and that's why we're here. So I'm going to ask, please, all the speakers who are going to be with us today to come to this right side, just to give you the order or participation. I would really, really appreciate it if the speakers that are already here can come, and I will give them the order of how they're going to be participating. So we anticipate that we're going to have the choral singing by Julie Blue and the Radiant Heart Song Circle. So they're going to be coming pretty soon. A big applause to these wonderful artists that are donating their art in a good case, in a good cause. So we're not here, Julie Blue and the Radiant Heart Song Circles. We're going to have land acknowledgement, and we are going to have our guest speakers. After a number of guest speakers, among them, we have a number of speakers. We're going to start. I just wonder if Chief Reuben George is here. Yes, is he here? Okay, beautiful. And we're going to have Jean Swanson speaking as well. And we're going to have Rocco Trigueros. We're going to have Diana Day speaking. Is Diana here? Is Diana here? Okay, probably she's getting here. We're going to have Nadia Ravello and Leslie Kemp speaking. And we probably going to have Kenny Quan. Is Kenny Quan here? Yes, he's here. Oh, thank you very much. She's here. So we're going to have a number of speakers after that, just to give you the order so you know what is happening next. We're going to have, after the speakers, we're going to be lighting the candles. I hope everyone has brought a candle. Has everyone brought a candle? No? I think there's some extra candles. So we're going to share the candles. We're going to share the light. We're going to share candles with other people. Now we're going to have a short vigil, and we're going to then walk to the Trump Tower, and we're going to have a short vigil in front of the Trump Tower at 8:30. So we're going to end up, we want to try to end up this sharp 9 p.m. And so that is the steps or the order of what we're going to be doing today. So please, this is a very peaceful demonstration. I know we are all people who come here to do a demonstration of challenging, those policies of Trump. And we're going to have a peaceful demonstration all the way there. And we have some good chantings, and we're going to have music and many other things, an important message for you. So without further, why don't we welcome with a big round of applause to Julie Blue and the Radiant Heart Song Circle. Please come here. Okay, so thank you very much. So would you beautiful ladies please come here? While you get settled and that, we're gonna ask. Yes, so let's get circle. We're gonna ask Chief Reuben George, First Nations leader and one of the fiercest opponents of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, to do the territorial acknowledgement. So please welcome Chief Reuben George.
Thank you, that's perfect. Hey CM, Hoichka CM. Wow, it's nice to have all these beautiful ladies behind me. You know, I have been working on the we did stop Kinder Morgan. Now we're gonna stop Trudeau. But I know too well of the problems that are happening here. You know, before I did the work that I did family therapy for 14 years, and I worked with elders that went to residential school, and my mom spoke of stories. She's one of the few elders that could talk about the murders that she witnessed of 5-year-old children that were in residential school. She's able to talk about the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the emotional abuse, the spiritual abuse, and the sexual abuse, the starvation, and all those horrible things that Canada still has a problem to recognize of what they did, not just to my mom, but to First Nations right across this country. And the same thing happened in the United States. To me, it's sort of like the descendants of those families are the same people that are making the same decisions, that are continuing this destruction and hurtful pain to little children. And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Even here, I went to the Alberta tar sands and I spoke in Calgary. Then the next night I spoke in Edmonton, and a mother came out of the hospital. And she said, the doctor told me not to bath my kids for more than 2 minutes at a time because the water's so polluted from living really close to the Alberta tar sands. Her 4-year-old and her 2-year-old were being treated for cancer. She had blisters across her whole body, and they said, this is how cancer starts. This is what my kids are going through. They're told not to drink the water, told not to bathe in the water. You know, that's their land that they've been living at for thousands of years. I presented to the National Energy Board, and these people were making decisions on behalf of my people who've been there for thousands of years. And I questioned them and I said, you're making choices for us when your future generations are probably not even here. We're still going to be here. And that family chose to stay to the land that they have a reciprocal relationship of love to the lands and waters. And for that, their kids are sick and their kids are dying, the highest concentration rate of cancer. But where my relations are coming from in the south, getting stuck at the border, it's the same problem. I was down in Panama. They killed 17 people for doing what I do, sticking up for the earth. They injured 150. I presented with a brother in Brazil, 2 of them, and they told me they're risking their life. I got home, 2 days later they called and they said that they were murdered. This is happening and this is real. And like I said, the same people that were making those choices, it's their descendants that are making the same choices, and it's the same people that are that 1% that own 90% of the wealth. It wasn't just that you kick the people off the land, it's now that they're harming children. They're harming children. The laws that he is creating are ridiculous. The things that we have reversed to try to create a better future for not just our future generations, but his going against. We know we're in crisis. The movement out of the Middle East of all the refugees running to European countries is about climate change. And there the people and the children are suffering as well. And that's why people are coming north. Because people are suffering. And we have to stand up. You know, nobody, even some of my own family, thought we couldn't beat Kinder Morgan in the beginning, a $350 billion company that was telling Canada what to do. I was going against cities, provinces, and 2 countries. And I persisted through. I ended up getting the 100% consensus of my nation. At that time, we did a town hall meeting and 13 people showed up. Now 71% of Burnaby residents support the Tsleil-Waututh Nation and soon Canada. People have to get educated on the true facts. But what my point is, if you're passionate about it, you could move mountains. If you believe in something, you could create change. Because they told me I couldn't, and I didn't take no. I had faith and belief and used in the lands and the spirit of the lands to help us to move forward our culture and spirituality. I used it. And they asked us one time, they said, how do you feel about this David and Goliath fight? And I said, that company in this country is too puny to stand up to the spirit of Tsleil-Waututh and our allies. And that's the same with us here. My children, they have relations in Mexico. They're part Mexican. That's why I fight down there too. My brother, he's a lawyer and he used to sit on city council for Todos Santos in the Baja, and he stood up for the rights of the people in the land, and they jailed him and arrested him, and he went to court and he won. The jury said, you're right, they arrested you falsely, but the judge said they had good intentions, so we'll keep you, and they kept him for 6 more months. That's what we're up against. But here, we're supposed to be free. Freedom of speech. We have to speak and fight for the ones that don't. Because they don't down there. Because my friends died fighting and standing up. And if we could give something, even if it's our time, because it's not our life, because we're not in jeopardy here, but we could stand up and give them a voice, because they don't sometimes. For their own children, they don't, so we should. And they are sacrificing their life. At the very least, we could stand up and fight for them. Tell our country to smarten up and Trudeau to smarten up and do something about that. So I thank you, the organizers. I thank you very much. I love you for what you're doing. Little children, my people say, when a child is born, it's born perfect. There's no prejudice, no anger, no hate, no judgment. Our teachings of our culture and our spirituality are teachings about how to maintain that. How to grow them up to be beautiful, no prejudice, no anger, no hate. How to raise them up and to be loving and caring to everybody. Something sure happened to those people like Trump that make these decisions to hurt those kids who are, I see beautiful eyes like this child here. Look how beautiful he is. Untainted, no prejudice, no anger, no hate, but they still killed him. Our teachings of humanity, of any religious or spiritual belief are the same, of love, honor, respect, dignity, pride, compassion, understanding, and truth. And knowledge and wisdom, those are the foundations about how we're supposed to raise our kids. But they don't do that. You know, when I beat Kinder Morgan, I'm going to go after the ministry and children family. I'm going to go after education the same way, because they're suppressing my people like they are my people at the border. That's where my heart is with that, because the children need a voice. They need a voice. So I love you all. I love you all, and I thank you for standing up. Thank you, organizers and everyone, for being here and coming out. I ask you to be a pebble thrown into the pond with the spirit that you carry. Ripple out to the people and educate them. Educate them that this can't happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. Yeah, I'm from Mexico. I came as a refugee in 1997. And when I see my son that is 13 years old, and I could think that my son could be engaged because we came here looking for a better life, it makes me so grateful of our brothers and the First Nations, Indigenous people who offer them their place to us. I'm so grateful. Thank you for this opportunity. And I want to remind you that the people who have been victims have a face. Darín Cristabel Córdoba Valle, she didn't see her mom for 9 years. She came here to see her mom, United States, and she went hospitalized because she was detained. Soon after she was detained, her mom asked for Darlene to be released to her. The government refused. She died on September 29 in the custody of ICE. She was only 10 years old. For Darlene, she's present. Please say present. Darlene. Present. Thank you. Now we're gonna have this wonderful team of voices to bring us to that emotion. Why don't we come and hear what is it that you have prepared for us? First of all, what's your name and what are the songs you picked for us?
Turn up the sound.
Let's have a big round of applause for the organizers and the MCs. They worked so hard. How is it sounding out there? I heard some people calling for the sound to be, you need it up? All right, we gotta turn it up. That's what the singers always say. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. It's an honor to be here tonight. And there's a beautiful saying in Spanish that says, ay, 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 canta, no llore. Sing, don't cry. And for me, either I'm going to cry of all these atrocities or I'm going to sing. So how about I sing? My name is Julie Blue, and these are my good friends in the Radiant Heart Song Circle. When I think about this time in history, all I want to do is turn the pages. Families belong together. Children don't belong in cages. I want to hang my head in shame or go into one of my rages. Families belong together. Children don't belong in cages. I want to believe that we are evolving as humans. But it feels like we're back in the dark ages. Families belong together. Children don't belong in cages. With each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the spirit of love. We are one. We are one. We are one. We are one. We are ones of courage. Fathers of time, daughters of dust, and sons of great vision, sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and builders of nations, seekers of truth, keepers of faith. are one. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust and sons of brave vision, sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life and builders of nations, seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace and wisdom of ages. For each child that's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Thank you. That's a song by Sweet Honey in the Rock. And we got one more song to do for you, and we want to get you involved and get your voices warmed up. How many people here are willing to make some sound to let the whole world know that this is not going to go on our watch? So I had the privilege of touring in South Africa just a few months ago, and I met a wonderful, wonderful woman named Nina Mushlope. And she's a national treasure, a storyteller, an activist. And she taught me this song. And the song is called Malibongwe. Can you say it? Malibongwe. It's in the Zulu language. And if you want to jump in, it repeats, you'll hear the words. And then I've added some of my own words to it. And when you hear the part about the children, please join in with us. I got a shaker coming. Thank you. Don't you just love my friends?
We gotta raise up the name of children, raise up the name. We gotta raise up the name of children, raise up the name. We gotta raise up the name of children, raise up the name. We gotta raise up the name of children, raise up the name. We gotta raise up the name of children, raise up the name. We gotta raise
Thank you so much for having us here, for taking part, and for standing up.
Let's give a big round of applause to Julie Blue and the Radiant Hearts on Circle. Now I understand why are the Radiant Hearts. And I want to talk to you before we prepare our next speaker about Juan de Leon Gutierrez. He was a shy, good student. When he missed class to help his dad, that he was harvesting coffee, after he finished his work with his dad, he will run to the school, catch the teacher, and explain him why he was absent. He died in custody on April 30th. He was 16. Juan de Leon Gutierrez. Presente. Juan de Leon Gutierrez. Presente. Juan de Leon Gutierrez. Presente. So now we're prepared to hear a long-time advocate for immigration rights and policies, Member of Parliament, Kenny Quan. And I want to give her a round of applause and ask her to tell us why Canada has been so quiet talking about this terrible tragedy that's happening in the border and how you're helping to change that. Thank you very much, Kenny Quan.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jenny Quan. I'm the Member of Parliament for Vancouver East, and I'm the NDP critic for immigration, refugee, citizenship, and multiculturalism. Let me first acknowledge the First Peoples, the Musqueam, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh peoples for allowing us to live, to work, and to gather in the unceded Coast Salish territories. I want to acknowledge and say thank you to Chief Reuben George for being here, for always standing, for always fighting for what is right, and allowing us to be his ally, to walk alongside with him in this journey for human rights and for humanity. I want to say thank you to the organizers, to Rocco, to every one of you for taking time to be here, to stand united with one voice and one heart, and to say that everyone deserves safety and security. Everyone deserves human rights. And that we stand united no matter what and no matter how powerful that they may be, even if it is the President of the United States, that we will not be afraid to stand up and to say no to discrimination and to say yes to human rights. We are gathered here, first off, and I want to acknowledge and to remember the children who've died, and some of the names have been mentioned, and to honor them, and to say to ourselves, and to commit ourselves today in going forward, that we will not forget them. And this fight is far from over, and we won't give up until it is done. Now, for me, I began this process, in fact, 2 years ago. It's hard to believe, January of 2017, when the Trump administration first brought forward the travel ban, the discriminatory travel ban against the Muslim community. Right then and there, I knew that things were not going to be good. And we recessed the House and went back to the House of Commons over the holiday period, and I moved an emergency motion debate, which was accepted, and with a full debate in the House of Commons about the path forward and how we need to stand together and stand united in support of asylum seekers, those who are fleeing persecution and violence, and to say that we need to unite together to support them to get to safety. And I was encouraged that we had that debate. But since that time, we have fallen so far from that pedestal. Remember, you all remember, back in the day when the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, said to the world that Canada welcomes you. Where are we now? Where are we now since that time? We have seen the Trump administration target asylum seekers, vilify asylum seekers. We have seen them come forward with policy that bans them from access and entering into the United States. We have seen them come in with policy. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, then they do something that is even more horrific. They actually decided, the United States, that women who are fleeing violence, women who face gendered-based violence, they would not qualify for asylum in the United States. They came forward with a policy. Absolutely shameful. They came up with a policy that said that if you are fleeing gang violence, and children, by the way, are being recruited into the gangs, and the Trump administration, came up with a policy to say that they will no longer recognize gang violence as a legitimate ground for asylum seeking. Now, the latest, of course, and you all know this, detention, separation of children, literally. Children are ripped away from the hands of their mother and their father, their parents, and to be kept away, to be caged. I call them baby jails. And that's what the Trump administration is doing. And the latest we're now learning, it is so horrific, the conditions of the detention facilities. It's not just the children, but for the adults too. People are drinking out of toilets for water. How is this possible? And how can we possibly allow this to continue? People are dying. And what was their crime? Their crime was to try to get to safety. I am a mother. If somebody was trying to recruit my daughter or my son into the gangs, I will cross treacherous waters to get to safety for them, because they are my life. They are everything that we stand for by way of humanity. That's what children resembles. They are the hope and of everything that we stand for in our communities. And to allow this to happen, and where is Canada? The question was asked, why are we so silent? How can it possibly be? Canada has our place, and I've been so very proud of Canada's place. Who are we? We are people who stand for humanity, who stand for justice, who stand for equality. We are those people who actually get to that table, who negotiate, who broker, who will ensure that the right path is taken. And when this is happening right next door, south of a border with our neighbor, where is our government? Where is our feminist prime minister who won't stand up and say no to Trump, who will not recognize domestic violence as grounds for asylum seeking? Where is that prime minister who wants to say that he is standing there for women? For women who actually need them the most vulnerable women who need all electeds, no matter what party, to stand with them and say you are not alone. Now, I am frustrated with our government. I will admit this, and you can hear this in my voice. You can feel it, I think, in my heart. And I am so devastated because we have politicians whose job is to get out there to fan fear and misinformation and misrepresentations. They will go around calling asylum seekers illegals. Now let me tell you this, Canada's law is very clear. Our law explicitly say that when a person crosses over to a border, whether irregularly or otherwise, for the purposes of seeking asylum, you are not illegal. You're not doing anything illegal.
Free the children! 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 Free the children!
So I want all of you, if you hear anybody call asylum seekers illegal, you need to make them accountable. You need to stand up and make sure that they correct the record. The Prime Minister did that in the House of Commons, to my dismay, and called asylum seekers illegals. The Minister of Immigration called asylum seekers illegal. Of course, the Conservative, all of them, went around spreading that misinformation and called asylum seekers illegal. They are all wrong. They are absolutely wrong. Asylum seekers under our law and under international law are not illegal. So a few days ago, well actually almost 2 weeks ago, I wrote an open letter to the minister about the detention, about the children being locked up, about the children dying, about the horrible, unimaginable conditions, the violence to which people face in these detention centers, and call on our government to condemn the United States for that behavior, for their actions, and to also say to our government that it is time for Canada to step up. Not only do we have to condemn that action, we have to step up and be a contributor and to suspend the Safe Third Country Agreement so that people can cross to Canada in safety. And I was so very dismayed that when the Prime Minister met with Trump, actually, on the World Refugee Day, no less, and he did not even mention what was going on in the United States. This was not even on the agenda to say to him that what you're doing is unacceptable, that in fact, people's lives are put at risk at these detentions, that you are breaking families up, that you're destroying lives. And we all know that when you separate children from their parents, and we learned this from the indigenous community, what happened with them, if there is anything that we should learn from our history, our own shameful history, is to make sure that we never repeat it again. And that has to be done for every single community. And by the way, I would be remiss if I don't mention for just 1 minute, the United States is also putting members of the LGBTQ2 plus members in detention indefinitely. And what is their crime? For being who they are, for choosing who they love. And they should have every single right to make that determination. And for the government, for the Trump administration to lock them up indefinitely, for people who are fleeing persecution because they face violence, that, to me, is what a crime looks like. So, I want to close with this. I know that all of you are here, and there are other speakers here today. I just want to first say, thank you so much to every single one of you from the bottom of my heart. I want to let you know that we're fighting this fight together. I want us to shout this across the world. And today, 400 other cities across the globe are standing together, holding a rally like this for people who are trying to get to safety. So united with one heart, united with one mind. Strength in the one voice. Let's make sure that every single elected person hear this message. Asylum seekers are not illegal, and it is time for Canada to find the courage. Let's take Trump on. Let's say to the world that in the name of humanity, that we will stand and fight with you. Thank you all so very much for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny Quan, for being here. Can you help me respond? Do we believe in the rights and freedoms of all to pursue a better life? Yes, we believe. Do we believe that everyone has the right to live, to work, and to prosper? Yes, we believe. Do we recognize that it's the desire for work and for safety that drives immigrants to the United States? Yes, we recognize. Do we recognize that seeking asylum is a universal human right? Yes, we recognize. We demand an end to the criminalization of migrants. Yes, we demand. We demand the recognition that every migrant is a human, as worthy and as important to the fabric of society and as any U.S. and Canadian citizen. We demand that recognition. Do we demand? Yes, we demand. Thank you very much. We're gonna go and hear now from anti-poverty activist and Fierce Cop City Council member Jean Swanson. She's always been there for the homeless people, a great activist, the type of politicians we want to see. Thank you very much, Jean. And because every level of government is involved, we want to hear how we can also change things at municipal level and what you have to say about these horrible detentions.
Thanks so much, Nancy. And thank you so much, Rocco, and everybody that worked on organizing this. What a great turnout. I want to start by acknowledging that we're on the stolen land of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish people, and pledge to work to give that land back to them or to get them compensation for it. So I'm having a hard time figuring out what to say about this situation of putting kids in jail and separating them from their parents. I mean, it's so gross. So I don't know, everybody has said everything eloquent about it. All I can think is it's so gross. And we need, Canada has this thing called the Safe Third Country Agreement, where if you're a safe third country, which I guess the US is supposed to be a safe country, but how can you be a safe country if you're killing children in jail? But because they're ostensibly this safe third country, then people can't cross the United States to get into Canada as refugees. So the first thing we have to do is get our own country to declare that the US is not a safe country. Which seems like an oxymoron at this point, because it's killing children. So I'm pledging to work for that. And then the second thing is, Canada's record isn't so great. We're putting migrants and refugees in jail too. And that's got to stop. No one is illegal. And so we've just got to keep working for that. And if somebody wants to help me write one up, I'm totally happy to introduce a motion at City Council to see what we can do to further this. So I don't really have any great eloquent words of wisdom. This is a very gross situation. We've got to stop it. It's great to see so many people out trying to fight it. And just thanks so much, everybody, for coming out, and thanks so much, all the organizers, for doing all the work of organizing this.
Thank you, Jean, for all your hard work fighting for homelessness and all the big issues in the city. I want to also to talk about Jacqueline May Rosemary Call McKean. Jacqueline liked to climb trees, like many kids at her age. She jumped when her dad told her she could come with him to the US. She was so happy that his dad was going to take her to the US. She thought that she might get her first toy. She was playing with the idea of that first toy. She just got her first pair of shoes. She died on December 8 in the government's custody. She was only 7. Jacqueline, presente. Jacqueline. Presente. Jacqueline. Presente. Jacqueline. Presente. Jacqueline. Presente. I want to also to prepare our next speaker. He's getting ready, and it's Rocco Trigueros, actually the person who organized this rally. And as he's getting prepared to have his few words to give it to you, I just want to also mention a couple more of demands. I want to remind you that why we're here, that we demand the abolition of the imprisonment of migrants. We demand the abolition of deportation and a return of those already deported to the United States at the government's expense. We demand family reunification for every migrant child separated from a family member of a guardian. We demand an end to the double jeopardy for migrants, a repeal to the 1996 laws that punish migrants twice for the same crime. We demand recognition that the U.S. immigration system is built upon racism and rooted in the belief in racial hierarchy. We demand an end to the complicity between the immigration and criminal justice system that deprive Black and brown people of dignity and freedom. Children's in cage need to stop. Rocco, please come here to the front, and we're ready to hear some words from you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Are you ready to go later on to the Trump Tower? Are you gonna be there? So, it's gonna be a beautiful walk towards that Trump Tower that represents so many negative things. By the way, I know that they're gonna change the name very soon, so might be one of the few changes we're gonna have to actually release all our frustrations. We have announcement on Tuesday, July 23rd at 5 p.m. in the Vancouver City Hall. You need to come and support because hotel workers don't want any more sexual harassment. So the City Hall is gonna speak. I'm pretty sure Jim Swanson wanna be supporting this motion. So please, if you wanna come, join July 23rd at 5 p.m. the Vancouver City Hall and support this movement against sexual assault and sexual harassment, because this is a movement and we all chain together. People of color, LGBTQ people, women, everybody's in this together, and it has one word: discrimination and oppression, and we're here to end up today. We also have a quick announcement here, and then I'm gonna start. Go ahead. Is it brief? And then we have this. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. I am Julie. I am the Communications Secretary with Democrats Abroad Vancouver. I'm here to tell you all what you guys can do, each and every one of you, so that we can relegate the cruelty, the sadism of this regime to the dust heap of history. We have heard this before. We have seen the tortured eyes of kids stolen from their families. We've heard the excuses. We were just following orders. They always say that, don't they? So what can we do? One of the things each and every one of you can do is to know anybody who is a U.S. citizen, even if you have never lived in the U.S., you can vote. And you should register to vote. And people want to tell you your vote doesn't count, but it takes a landslide to move a boulder down a mountain. And every vote counts, and the world is counting on us. Votefromabroad.org is a website where anybody who is a U.S. citizen can find out how they can register to vote and kick those motherfuckers to the curb right the fuck now, okay? Everybody, you find your friends. You have a friend in the movie industry. You have a friend who's visiting, a friend who's a student. They're a U.S. citizen. They need to be involved because we need every person counts now. And direct action is important, but so is voting. So votefromabroad.org if you'd like more information on Democrats Abroad Vancouver. We are the international wing of the Democratic Party. We are a very progressive group here in Vancouver, and we have a Facebook page. We post events and a lot of information about what's going on in the U.S. Democrats Abroad Vancouver on Facebook. Thank you. Don't forget, and I have these cards to hand out if anybody wants one from votefromabroad.org.
So if you have any friend from the United States, contact her, give her card, and they need to vote from here and kick Trump out of power. Because do we want Trump again? No! There's going to be a party on Saturday, August the 3rd from 4 to 9 in Grandview Church. Saturday, August the 3rd from 4 to 9. And there's going to be a fundraising. They're going to sell pupusas, food. There's going to be music, poetry. And it's going to be a fundraiser for imprisoned children at U.S. detention centers. So if you can go, that would be great. Tonight, some of the best hearts are here. Of Vancouver, and I can tell you, because if you're here, it's because you felt frustrated when you saw the pictures of the people dying. If you're here, it's because you're frustrated for all that has been happening and for the silence of our government. So, 7 children dead so far, 24 adults are dead since Trump administration. Can we do something? Yes, yes, we can have international solidarity. We're here because we're speaking for those immigrants that are in this moment sleeping on the floors. We're here because we're for those people that were separated from their families. We're here because they don't have medical attention. We're here because the food they have make them sick. We're here because they have been sexually abused. We're here because hygiene is a luxury. Toothpaste, soap, toothbrush, it's a waste of money. They make them drink sometimes from the toilets. We're here because members of the LGBTQ2 are in solitary confinement. We're here because detention centers are owned by private companies. And what do they want? Profit. What do they need? Profit. So they keep immigrants like caged chickens to make better profits. Sometimes immigrants stay for years because this is a business. This is capitalism at its worst. This is the core of whatever is rooted in the system. So profiting with human suffering is horrible. But you know what is even worse? That our Canadian Minister of Finance said invested money in detention centers. He said it was ethical. And it's still happening. Shame, 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 shame. No public money should end up in these unethical places. I cannot believe that this is still happening. There is public money going down and being invested in these detention centers because it's a business. It's a big business that is profiting and the suffering of people. And we have our own issues here. We have, in 2018, 140 kids here in detention centers as well. And some of them, at some point, were separated from their families. 104 children were in prisons in Canada in 2018, immigrant children. And in 2019, so far, we had 110. Do we really need to put children in prisons? No! Are we only here for the children in the United States? No! Any immigrant children should be out of prison. Any immigrant children shouldn't be in prison. No kids in cages. So we're not gonna let this to happen. We're asking politicians, and you can write your MP, and we're so glad to have here Jenny Quan and supporting us, but write your MP and say, we don't want any children in detention centers because they have detention centers. But you know what they say? Oh, it's okay because we have playful areas where they can play, and they are imprisoned. No children should be in prison at all. Not in Canada, not in the United States. Never again. Climate change is changing everything. We might be one day the ones that should be displaced and moving in other places. This is changing. We need to be open and understand that being a refugee is a human right, and one day tomorrow we're gonna need it. Being a refugee is not gonna be anymore as the way they have labeled it, the worst crime in a nation. Being a refugee is gonna be the most essential human right in 10 years we're all gonna have. And we better start defending that, because with climate change, we don't know where we're gonna end up. We're gonna start moving. So let's make refugee claimant and refugees an universal human right, and we need to support everyone who is having that process. I just wanna live with other speakers and say finally, speak with your MPs, with your politicians, tell them to speak out. We don't want more federal government quiet, because we have silence, and it's happening right in front of them. And they're quiet, and maybe because they have their own children detained here. So we want them to open that silence. We want them to revise any agreement we have with the United States and make sure they're following correctly, so we can say, no, you're not, and break those agreements. And we need to start stopping children in Canada to be detained and put in detention centers. That's not okay. That's not the model of the future. We need to change. Thank you so much.
People before business. 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 I want to just to give you, because Rocco was touching on the GEO group, and the core civics receive a multi-million-dollar contracts from the DHS to run detention facilities. Since 2017, ICE has signed over $450 million worth of contracts to GEO group and $280 million to core civic, according to the US spending government. Shame, 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 shame. So before we go to the next speaker, I just want to tell you about Wilmer Josue Ramirez Vasquez. His mother brought him to the US to get him medical care for a condition that left him unable to walk. He died on May 14 in government custody. He was 2. Wilmer, presente. Wilmer. Presente. Wilmer. Presente. Wilmer. We have a wonderful speaker coming after, and we are very, very honored to have with us Diana Day. Diana Day, a big round of applause for Diana Day. Diana Day is a lead matriarch for the Pacific Association of First Nations Women, and one person very committed and passionate, advocating for the most vulnerable children rights in Vancouver. Please welcome Diana Day.
Nyawa, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the Coast Salish territory, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people who have taken such beautiful care of this land for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Nyawa to the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. I'm an uninvited guest here. I'm from the Oneida Nation, which is part of the Six Nations Iroquois Confederacy. How many of you have heard of the Iroquois Confederacy? Thank you. The United States Constitution was based on our teachings. And I'm so proud to have my sister here with me today and holding my brother, George Neil Day's flag, who served in the U.S. Marine Corps for a number of years. And I want to say that we are North American Indians. My mother raised us to know that we're North American Indians, the whole North America. Not Canada, not America, not the smaller countries below, but the whole as North American Indians. That's who we are. That's who we are. Now, so I like to say I have lived on the state side, Detroit, Buffalo, and also we came back. My people originate from New York State area, and we were also relocated. So in 1840, we were relocated by boat. We had to take a train from our community to the water, and then a boat took us to one of the Great Lakes, and then dropped us off in Ontario, some of our people, and then took the boat all the way around Michigan and dropped the rest off in Wisconsin. So we have 3 communities: Oneida, New York, Oneida, Ontario, and Oneida, Wisconsin. So our people have been relocated, and we've been relocating Indigenous people all the while since contact. If we're not relocating them, there was genocide. Just killing them off, whether it's through smallpox blankets or through guns and just doing it the old-fashioned way. But germ warfare was here in British Columbia. Germ warfare was here in British Columbia. We need to remember that. Don't forget it. It was here. Our people were infected on purpose with the smallpox blankets. So we need to remember that. We need to remember the devastation that happens here in Canada with First Nations people. The travesty that we have, not only with the murdered and missing women, but also the child apprehensions. We have a baby, Hazel. How many of you have heard of baby Hazel? Baby Hazel was kidnapped at birth from her mother. So there's lots of struggles that are going on right now. And this is one of the greatest struggles that we have seen. One of the greatest travesties of justice is having children, small children, innocent children, placed in these cages and being abducted, being separated and pulled from their families. This is very tragic, very tragic. We know what this is like, being Indigenous people. We have suffered this continuously. So I'm just thinking about all those children, those small children, and the older ones as well too, and the moms and the grandpas and the aunties and all those other people that are connected to them, and thinking about the hurt and the pain that they're feeling. So I want us to think about that, and when we get home or when we're here tonight, we can say a prayer for those people that are suffering. And there's nothing we can do but pray and write letters and gather as rallies and do things like that. It's really important that we stick together, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight and joining together and sharing this love and support for our community. Love and support for those children that are suffering. We also have to pray. We also have to pray for the leaders, for those people who are making those terrible, bad decisions. We have to pray for them. Pray for them for people to come into their lives, to help change their minds. We have to pray and make sure that we do this. We have to have faith. We have to have faith and know that things are going to change for the better, and they will, and to know that they will. So thank you for inviting me to speak. My name is Diana Day. I'm the lead matriarch for the Pacific Association of First Nations Women. Look us up. We're doing some great things with women. We're going to lift the women up. Indigenous women rise in this city. Nyawa, nyawa. Thank you.
I want to thank here also a large group of very dedicated people to defend the rights of tenants. I want to give a big round of applause because they're being wonderful. They're being volunteers here. They're being helping people to not being kicked out of their houses and stop rent evictions. So a big round of applause to the Vancouver Tenants Union that is here, that is there, that is all over the city helping and working to defend the housing rights of all of us. Thank you very much to the Vancouver Tenants Union for the great job they do. Now we have our fourth and fifth speakers, and we're gonna go, after we finish hearing their message, we're gonna get ready to light our candles, and we're get ready to go to that Trump Tower. Before they take that name, they're gonna hear us today. So, the fifth and the speakers today is we're gonna have Nadia Ravello. Nadia is a Colombian-born activist, recently awarded by Mosaic for her work with refugees and immigrants in Canada. She's also working, providing health services to temporary agriculture workers. And we also gonna hear from Leslie Kemp, internationalist activist, member of Socialist Alternative and mentor for young women activists. Please, a big round of applause to hear their message today.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Rocco, and everyone for coming. I'm Leslie from Socialist Alternative Vancouver, and Nadia also from Socialist Alternative Vancouver. And thank you for all your wonderful signs and messages of solidarity. Socialist Alternative Vancouver stands in solidarity with all those throughout the world who are escaping violence, hunger, environmental destruction, and discrimination in their countries of origin, and they're seeking a better life. And many Canadians are offering crucial support to refugees, and some of our own members are involved in advocacy, legal work, medical work, and more. But we need to be clear that the problems that children and families face in detention centers in the US and in Canada too cannot be solved without a collective, unified approach around the world. And we've heard that message from other speakers tonight. This is a systemic problem and requires a systemic response. The system of global capitalism means Canadian mining companies exploit communities with devastating environmental impacts in Latin America, in Greece, and on Indigenous lands in Canada. Global capitalism encourages wealthy investors to hide their wealth in tax havens. Global capitalism means unclean water, damaged lands, lack of services, and decent education. It then puts up walls and borders to prevent people suffering from the misery of capitalism to get a better life elsewhere. Socialist Alternative fights for a better world for all. We work towards a socialist society with democratic planning to meet the interests and needs of the overwhelming majority. But we also fight for changes that make a difference in the lives of people today. We call on the Canadian government to immediately suspend the Safe Third Country Agreement. And this agreement refuses people escaping horrendous situations to make a claim in Canada if they've already been refused a claim in the US. We join others in calling for the end of the degrading camps at the US border. And we call on the Canadian government to end the detention of children and the separation of children from families in Canada. And this is happening in Canada too. So we invite you to join a collective struggle for change. Let politicians know where you stand. And let us stand together for a better world for all. Solidarity.
Friends, I would like you to do this. Could you do this, please? Thank you. This is a hug of solidarity. And thank you for coming today here. We are here full of sadness and hunger and worry. Thousands of our sisters and brothers and their children are mistreated in USA detention camps. The same that our brother and sister that lose their life in the Mediterranean Sea or in the Gaza Strip. They are looking for better life conditions, as we have done or we will do. How we can transform our pain in hope. As the popular song says, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
El pueblo
unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. As Flora Tristan say, workers of the world united. As we are doing today, we are transforming this pain in hope. We need to get involved. We need to participate in politics. All that we can do here has an impact in the international arena. Look what the welfare workers did. They walked off their job to say, we are not allies of this business where big companies make profit over the violation of the human rights. The problem is the system, and we need to change it, and we can do it. Get involved, participate in politics, contribute to build a movement in your community, in your workplace, at home. And ningún ser humano es ilegal. Ningún ser humano es ilegal. Ningún ser humano es ilegal. Nobody is illegal. Thank you.
It's very interesting when you're bringing the part of the workers and everything. I was in Tacoma Detention Center, which is only 2 hours from here. So if anyone knows where these big detentions, people think that they're like south on the border, you will be surprised. Tacoma has one of the largest detention centers. 1,575 people are detained in an area that is not deemed for human to live with humans there. It's industry area, and God forbid that anything happens there because they cannot go out. The escape is there. And they have 1,575, and from that number of people, around 80% are Latinos. And there have been people there that are almost 6 years in detention. I had the opportunity to go inside and talk to the people who were detained that have committed this terrible crime. Being born in another country, being brought by their parents when they were 1 year or 2 year old, grown up in United States and being detained. That was the crime. So many of those people, they didn't even speak another language but English. They didn't know other place than United States. And one more thing I want to tell you. These companies are so smart. They're giving $125 per person per night. And in addition to that, they don't spend a penny in workers because the people who are detained are the workers. They're the ones who clean. They're the ones who cook. They're the ones who do all the work for the wonderful amount of $1 a day. What a business! Who doesn't want to have that business? You run your own business. You have people who are detained. You're getting paid for having that person, and you pay them $1 in exchange. That is what is happening in those detention centers, triple Ps, and I know that here in Canada, in Kelowna, they already built those triple Ps jails, and these models are so effective, producing so many that they want to be duplicated somewhere else. We need to stop that now. So I want to, yes, sure.
We love when suddenly out of the crowd there comes people and that are important to be here. And for me, there was one missing piece in this protest, and that was the history of Japanese Canadians in Canada. As you know, they were also interned in detention centers in Canada during the Second World War. If somebody knows about concentration camps, are they? So you can speak, please.
Thank you.
My name is Lily Shinde. I was born in Greenwood in an internment town in British Columbia. I am a director, and beside me is the president of the Japanese Canadian Citizens Association. And we want to say never again is now. Japanese Canadians protest the detention of families and children in USA and Canada. And Judy Hanazawa, the president, will give you more detail of what's happening in the United States.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for letting us speak. In the United States, there are Japanese Americans, and you know, in the United States, I think over about 120,000 Japanese Americans were interned as well. And lately, there have been demonstrations at Fort Sill near Oklahoma, Texas, where children are being imprisoned. And they're there because that is exactly where Japanese Americans were incarcerated during the Second World War, 1942. And as Japanese Canadians here, and as Lily said, we do not stand for this kind of cruelty and mistreatment of children. We know what it is to be imprisoned. We know what it is to be growing up without the ability to be educated, to have other rights that children have, because incarcerated Japanese Canadian children lived in that way. And so we say with you that we stand with you as we meet this terrible, terrible situation and take it head on, because children do not deserve this kind of cruelty, and we have to do something about it all together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. You know, there are some people in the United States say that we are exaggerating. Oh, they're not concentration camps. Not at all. They're still in denial. But you know what? For someone like Trump, that incarcerating people is like one of the points of the order of the day. You know, we cannot, nothing to ask him. So, but I like to ask David Bloom, who is a celebrated theater director, artist, and playwright, who actually has already started his own little battle also in front of the U.S. Embassy, already being there, installing himself, and doing what we're doing all together, that is demanding that those detentions of children stop. So please, let's hear from David Bloom.
Honestly, I feel like a complete fraud being up here, because everybody you've heard from right now has dedicated their life to working for justice for people, and I'm just a schmuck who works in the theater. But I was watching, a couple of nights ago, I was watching one of the women who had organized all the Lights for Liberty things all over the world, and the only thing I'm going to disagree with Jenny Quan, she said 400. At this moment, there are nearly 700 Lights for Liberties happening in 5 continents. And one of the things that they noticed was that they were getting a lot of letters from people who had organized these things, and the people were saying, I have never organized anything before in my life. So I guess I represent those kind of people. I'm very privileged. As far as you can tell, I'm white. We organized a little group called Protest Kids in Cages, and we tried to have a presence in front of the American consulate for the 2 weeks leading up to this day. At the time, we didn't even know this event was going to happen. We knew it was happening in other places. But the only time that is valuable in front of the embassy, normally in front of the consulate, is business hours. And a lot of the people in the group, of course, work during business hours. So there was a lot of time when it was just one old crank standing in front of the building like a Jehovah's Witness. And it's very easy when you're standing there alone, mainly being ignored, to feel like, what's the point? Is there any hope in doing this? And of course, the other thing that goes through your head is, how can a Canadian protest Americans holding kids in camps when we've been stealing children from Indigenous people from the beginning of our history? So here's what I say about that, and here's why it is a Canadian issue as far as I'm concerned. This has nothing to do with immigration. Trump doesn't care about illegal immigrants as an issue because he employs them non-stop. Yeah. So this is what Trump is doing, and this is what, and all the people who back him, and let's face it, the people who are getting lessons from him up here, is they're just seeing how much we're willing to accept, right? They're just really, how much are we willing to swallow? One disgusting act after another that people have just gone, well, you know, at one time, my whiteness is provisional. I know it can be taken back, but I just want to remind the other white people in the crowd that there are times when Irish were the people who were being used, right? It doesn't matter what the group is. You know when a group is being pointed at and used as a scapegoat, the two things are happening. One is they're trying to control you, and the other thing is somebody's making a shit ton of money. My father grew up with signs in parks that said, no dogs or Jews allowed. But before that it said, no dogs or Irish allowed. And now, of course, we're going to point at people. I know that when people are pointing at my Muslim brothers and sisters, that they're trying to control us. When they're pointing at queer people, when they're pointing at trans people, and when they're pointing at the foreigner, whatever the foreigner is, right? So what's really important is that we're telling people that we are seeing this and that we won't put up with it. And standing in front of the consulate, one of the things that I got reminded about is a lot of the people who work in the diplomats and so on, they're ashamed of what's going on too. And we want to give them the courage to stand up. Just like when Trump said, don't celebrate gay pride, you can't hold a flag, so they put up lights instead, right? There's a desire to rebel. So after this event, we're going to walk to Trump Tower. I've got a few things I want to put up and leave there for them. I have tape and all kinds of things if any of you want to leave your signs. And then I hope some of you will join me and walk a few more blocks and go down to the consulate. Across the street from the consulate, they're doing some work. There's all kinds of bare space where we can put it. They really need to see the faces of these children, and we need to add to the signage there. So if you have signs and you're thinking, I don't want to take this home, come down with me. I'll give you tape, I'll give you wire, I'll give you whatever you need, and let's put them up. I also have candles if people didn't bring candles, and I have lighters. I just thank you so much, Rocco, and everybody who organized this.
Well, we are getting ready. Are we ready? Let's do that work. Let's take all our demands and everything that we're saying, and we're just gonna be walking. So this is the route. Let's just be that everyone is in the same pace. First of all, don't forget anything, any of your papers, anything of your pieces of art and everything. Don't leave anything behind. And we're gonna be walking to that corner, go around in Hornby, and then we're gonna take our left in Georgia Street. We are gonna be walking in the sidewalk. Where's my English? Where's my English? And the sidewalk, and let's try to let space for the other people to walk. So we're gonna be walking that. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? No cage for children! 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 Let's get ready!
Free child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Free child